If you're looking for a clean, sober, professional, academic,
well-researched, historically accurate, generally accurate, serious podcast
on Southern folklore, ghosts, bizarre events, and unique people,
this podcast is not for you.
However, if you've decided you can live with that,
then join us for The Strange South.
The Strange South.
Do you have the recipe for that written up? Awesome.
Bon ton, bon ton. Roulette.
I want to eat nutria.
What?
I feel like I should eat nutria while we're in New Orleans.
Like swamp
You know
rat?
that's not like every time you say that, I'm thinking of Nutella.
No, nutria.
You want to eat a rat.
Swamp rat.
The vegetarian of the group says, "I want to eat a rat."
It's
Swamp
good
rat.
for the environment.
Just
True
kill
that.
it. You don't have to eat it. Just kill it.
Give it to your dog.
I guess if I
Or your
won't kill
cat.
it, I still shouldn't eat it. That's the same thing.
Well, will you kill it?
Oh, probably not.
Then no, you shouldn't.
But it's on the list of 8 of the tastiest invasive species.
Gross.
I'd try it.
I would not.
I would eat gator.
Oh.
I'll eat gator.
Have you had gator before?
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
gator when I lived in Florida.
Good.
It is good.
I like gator.
Me too. Oh, these are plants. Oh, no, they're not. Nutra!
I'd eat a nutria before I would eat a bug.
Wild boar. Giant cannibal shrimp? That's a thing?
Mm.
Fun.
I bet they taste good.
The Asian tiger shrimp.
Mm.
Anyway.
My brother had lionfish, which
Oh,
is an
yeah.
invasive species.
Mhm.
He said it was delicious. There's a chef over in Birmingham that's been cooking them that he said was like so good.
The only thing I remember about lionfish is from that Naked Gun, where like there's a part where Leslie Nielsen is like in somebody's office and he is like the lionfish is like the guy's special aquarium fish and it's like unique and tropical and you can't get them. You have to pay thousands of dollars for them. And somehow he accidentally spears it with a pen and kills it. And he's like got his hand in the aquarium trying to like get the lionfish off the pen. It's the only thing I know about lionfish.
Oh my
That's my
gosh.
story.
That's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me think of what is that show? It's a new show, Succession. It just shows the ridiculousness of the wealthy. Okay, that's
I can't
what it
watch those shows.
is. Yeah,
I get pissed off
but
so much.
one of them is one episode. He became part of the rich family. He didn't grow up rich like they did,
Mm-hmm.
and he married into it. And so he tries really, really hard to be so like upper class. And he takes this other kid who's not of the upper class to a restaurant, and they eat a songbird, but they have to wear it was like those places that serve like illegal,
Oh my god.
Like,
but they
people's hands.
they have to cover their heads with a napkin and eat it in shame because they're eating it.
Oh my god.
It is so ridiculous. He's like, "Oh, it's so good." And like the kid he brought is like, "This is horrible. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is what the wealthy do." They just like
Oh my god.
they
that's
covered their
awful.
head with this
Next
like, shroud
level.
and ate a songbird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. Just made me
telling
think
you.
of that
There you go.
illegal game.
Shit. I've seen some extravagance, some
Oh, that's
ridiculous
right.
extravagance this weekend.
Marleah went to like an RV expo.
Yes, I went to the RV Expo in Atlanta and it was eye-opening. Like I've been camping with friends who have like an A-line, a little tiny camper, and so we all kind of look around at all these other campers in the campgrounds and wonder what they're like inside and stuff. And so I was like, I finally get to go inside these, and it is fucking insane. They've got fireplaces and like multiple bathrooms, multiple bedrooms, chandeliers. She's like, Jesus Christ. Like, what? Wow, how much? And like up to like $420,000.
Right? Like multiple times the price of our houses and places that we could not even, like, why?
I know. What do you get ultimately? What do you get off of that? Like, it's not, you can't really hand it down to your children. I mean, it'll be obsolete
Right?
by the time.
Oh my God. Just
Ugh.
imagine like the insurance on those things. It'd be
I
like
can't.
insurance
Mm.
for a house, but
Well, it
much
basically is
more
one,
because you're
'cause
taking
it
it
moves.
on the highway with idiots. And like, I would dare say you would be an idiot for buying one. So
Courtney's making a face
Sorry,
about
I
her
bit
drink.
into like a bitter.
Orange?
I think it was a piece of lime pulp.
mm,
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
First off, you didn't say hello. I got to go back and start
my
this
God.
again.
Hi, Marleah.
Hi, Patrice. Hi, Courtney.
Hey, Courtney.
Hi, everybody. How are you supposed to know we're here?
We're
We don't-
so
we're
bad.
talking.
We're so bad at our own podcast. I think people
Who did
kind of
you
realize
think
this.
it was?
I was like, are we recording? Okay, we are, I think, because we're talking about weekend things, and now
Yes.
I'm lost. And my beads are over there. I've been throwing beads,
Yes,
Mardi
we've been
Gras
having our own.
I wouldn't
thing.
throw them, but I
And
don't
we've
think
been
I should.
practicing saying the laissez bon temps brûlé.
Laissez-les bon temps brûlés.
Okay, we fucked it up. And by we, I'm speaking in the royal we here.
I didn't even try that time.
Was it laissez-les bon temps
Laissez-les bon
brûlé?
temps brûlés.
I got the laissez, the bon temps, and the roulé.
Let the good times roll.
Yes.
I think that we've done this before, but after how many years of doing this now? 4
4
and
years.
plus. I'm pretty sure one of my early drinks was a hurricane.
Oh, yeah,
I think so.
for sure.
But I think I had a Pat O'Brien's mix somehow.
yeah,
I did.
yeah, I think so
Patrice
too.
remembers.
I
Yeah,
don't remember
because
shit.
we talked about pedos and
Yes.
my
Mhm.
infamy behind
We
the franchise.
even though I've done that, I thought we would try again because we're about to go to New Orleans.
Ooh, ooh, for the
This-
first time in my life, going to Mardi Gras during Mardi Gras season.
Yay, me too. First time in my life.
Me too.
So we're doing a hurricane today,
Yes.
and but it's made not with the mix, and it's not nearly as red.
No,
As
it's
the
not.
Pat
It's like
O'Brien's.
pretty orange.
It's
It's
like- yeah.
very pretty. It's like
It looks
lush.
like a tequila sunrise or a
Mhm.
Sex on the Beach kind of look, an orangey.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it has the main ingredient. I didn't know. I was like, when I thought about doing this, thought, what the hell's in a hurricane? I just know they're usually bright red, very sweet and strong. Like
Mhm.
that's all I know. But it's passion fruit juice is the main juice in it.
Mm.
So passion fruit juice, lime juice, a little bit of orange juice, grenadine, and we mix it up a little bit and have a strawberry grenadine in it, which I think is
Yes.
a good flavor.
I
Just
like
a little
the
bit,
strawberry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's good.
some simple syrup and garnish. Oh wait, the alcohol part.
Oh, yeah.
4 ounces of rum per drink, which is 2 white and 2 gold rum,
Which is
2
like,
ounces of each.
that's why like you pay the big bucks,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know, for them, and you keep drinking them, and then things happen that you don't expect.
Well, what we just realized when I made this, so I have hurricane glasses, and there's 3 different sizes. There's a
Mm.
very large one, a medium one, and a smaller one from different restaurants. But the largest one is from the famous Pat O'Brien's in New Orleans,
Yeah.
which I drank out of that glass in New Orleans. And
Nice.
when I made this one drink to put in there, it only filled half of that glass. So that means that if you're getting hurricanes at Pat O'Brien's, I'm thinking it's a double,
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
which is if they go by that recipe, which I doubt they do.
I
That's
doubt they
8
do, but
ounces
yeah.
of liquor in a drink.
because
But they're really strong, so I don't know. I
Oh,
can't vouch
no.
for how much is in a hurricane at Pat
they
O'Brien's.
may get like some really cheap ass rum.
Mhm.
and
Oh, I think
just,
they do.
yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you really? I mean,
Because,
you're
like,
a bar
it's
and
hard to
it's
drink.
such mixy.
like one
Mhm.
hurricane and not be just like
Yeah.
crawling on the
2
floor.
is drunk.
2.
3 is you don't know what happened.
Yeah, 3 is you get
Yeah.
kicked out.
The 3 is you get kicked out. It's huge, right? You saw
They're
it.
huge. Yeah.
So when I got these out, I thought, oh no, that small one is going to be too small for the drink. And actually, it's the perfect size.
Yeah,
It
it
is
was the right
perfect.
The
size. I was like,
medium is a
mine
little
looks
too
full.
big, and then the Pat O'Brien's is only half of half full. So
It's like the Goldilocks of hurricane drinks here.
I got
Yeah.
the baby
I
bear.
got Papa Bear.
Mine is from Captain Anderson's restaurant and Marina
in
in
Panama City
Panama
Beach.
City.
God, I'm wanting seafood so
yeah,
bad right now.
that's a good restaurant. I don't know if it's still there, but I used to go there a lot in my early 20s. It
Yeah,
was
I
the
want
fancy
seafood
place
too.
when you'd go out. We'd be like, we're going to Captain Anderson's on Saturday night.
Yeah.
I've been wanting seafood too because Patrice been sending us all these restaurant links for all these
Mhm.
Oh,
like amazing looking restaurants. So
yes.
yeah, we're gonna hit it. We're gonna do some.
Definitely. That's where all my money's going. And be like, I don't know, we're going
Right.
to survive on the rest of the
I know, exactly.
But I'm going to eat
That's-
it all this weekend.
I have been not going out to eat. I've only been out twice in 2 weeks. Well, not counting my mom yesterday, but she paid for that. So
There you go. Thanks, Mom.
to save up for this.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to do the rest of the week. I meal prep today, thinking, all right, I need my lunches and dinners ready
Yeah.
at home.
'Cause
And then
you got-
Friday,
then
we're
you
going to
got-
blow it out.
Yeah, I was gonna
Blow
say you
it
got
out.
Friday to look forward to. It's easier to do it when you know like the weekend is
Oh,
going to be.
especially since it's a Monday through Thursday work week. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, we're done after Thursday.
Mhm.
I can make it. Plus, I work late shift tomorrow, so I don't have to be at work till noon. Maybe I'll
Nice.
have
Have
two
another
hurricanes.
hurricane.
Right?
So, laissez-les bon temps roulé.
Yeah,
Laissez-les
bon temps, bon temps.
You did it.
Woohoo.
Is this?
I didn't.
Have we got other?
Well, we're looking at the shirts. Like, I don't know how they can't say this because Patrice just gave us these beautiful custom shirts that she made. I think you can also get on our store.
Yes,
You
ours are a
can.
little more custom because
Yeah.
theirs don't have our names on
Yeah.
them. Ours have our names on them that Patrice put. But she designed a great Mardi Gras shirt that you can go to the store on thestrangesouth.com and order in like a billion different color combinations. Whatever strikes your fancy. It's really
Whatever.
cool.
Yes, you can get them in black and white, or you can get them in the colors because, like I was telling Marleah, the colors of and there's meaning behind the colors for Mardi Gras. So I don't know what they are. I should have pulled that up.
Purple is for royalty.
royalty.
Pink,
I was like, gold or yellow for sunshiny people.
I don't think that's it, but maybe.
Treasure.
Yeah, wealth,
something like
and-
wealth, and then purple. Well, we already said purple, and then green
Green.
is for greener pastures. I don't fucking know.
But those are the Mardi Gras
But those are
colors.
but I
Purple, gold, and green.
I
Yeah.
tamped them down a little bit so they weren't so like bright. But we got them in the jerseys that you can get, and there was like a Kelly green jersey that's very pretty. But if you're totally like me and love like the black and white and grays, we got you. You can get the same design, so you can be like low key goth in your celebration of Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
I love these shirts. So we've got like the baseball tees, and it's personalized for the birthday trip.
Oh, listen.
Love it.
No, this is not what I expected.
Yeah,
Purple
it's,
In
royalty wrong.
1872, Rex, the king of Carnival, proclaimed the official colors of Mardi Gras to be purple, green, and gold. I know this is just off the internet, so this could be completely made up. Rex assigned a meaning to the colors in his 1892 parade titled Symbolism in Colors. Purple represents justice. Green stands for faith, and gold signifies power.
yeah, that's what I read. That's why I was like making them up because the original ones didn't make sense.
Well, traditionally, purple means royalty.
Exactly. And gold
The kings
means
and queens of Mardi Gras.
gold, and green means
Money.
money.
We got any more pre-show?
I have no more pre-show other
got no
than
more
I am so excited, everyone, and hopefully this will probably come out after we get back and have all the things. But hopefully you've looked at our Instagrams and we've actually done social media during our New Orleans.
Yeah, we're going to.
Why
I'm
do you
gonna
got to raise
help-
people's hopes like that?
So I could dash them and have them highly disappointed and being like, where the fuck the things that they said that they were going to do?
I'll do some Facebook Live. That's easy.
Yeah. Exactly. All righty. We done with all that?
I think so. I think
Should
we're
we
ready
stop and
to
start?
laissez-les bon
Let's-
temps
let's-
rouler.
Do that.
Do you want more Strange South every week? We can help. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can join our Facebook fan group, Fans of the Strange South Podcast, to keep the chat going with our whole creepy community. Do you have a story idea for us or a story of your own to share? Email us at stories@thestrangesouth.com. Plus, if you join our Patreon, you not only help support the podcast, you get an exclusive bonus episode for every show and a discount on merch. You can find links to all of these things on our website, thestrangesouth.com, along with photos, links, and show notes from every episode, Strange South t-shirts, mugs, and other goodies. See you there.
Right.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, we're back.
We're
From
back.
Not talking about scary things.
And needles. And stuff.
No, she said it.
Mm.
We weren't talking about that.
No. All right. So my story begins on a Monday,
Ooh.
the worst day,
Mm.
December 16th, 1811. Okay. So a 21-year-old man named William Lee Pierce was on a flat bottom boat navigating the Mississippi River around Arkansas and Tennessee. And he was with from what I've read, it seemed like he was with a company that was transporting goods from that area down to New Orleans.
So that's like Memphis area.
Yeah, maybe a little bit above, a little bit north of Memphis. So flat bottom boats were tethered to each other. So they had like, kind of a train going down. And the reason they had flat bottom boats is so they could navigate the water and like not get stuck on a sandbar or the trees or whatever that was in the river and slow down like any boats that followed them. And nowadays we have barges. So if you ever seen like a river barge, it's kind of the same thing. It's like a huge boat, but they're pretty flat and shallow so that they can carry all the things down the river without getting stuck. One of his other jobs, I believe, was to protect like the supplies against river pirates or the indigenous people at the time who were in the area and a little bit more than pissed off at the U.S. government trying to take their homes. So that morning of the 16th, Pierce was on the boat asleep when about 2 a.m. everybody woke up to a violent and convulsive rocking of the boats. And this was accompanied by a noise similar to like them running aground of a sandbar. I didn't really know what the fuck was going on. And he first thought that somebody had come and like loosened the cables and untethered them and they were just floated off into the river into a sandbar, but they were kind of like tethered to the side of the river at the time. But when they got up on the deck, they discovered that, they were all still like secured. They were still moored to the side of the bank. And Pierce wrote in his story that at this point, his brain automatically went to the word earthquake.
Oh.
It was shortly after he thought this that a second shock and then two others were like right after that continued on for like 8 minutes. So
Dang.
a few spots from where they had camped or where they were set up, this huge, large oak snapped in half and fell onto the riverbank side there. And trees all around them were shaking. And it sounded like, he said the sound of it was like when you have a severe wind come through a forest and all the leaves break and you hear like trees falling and stuff. It was all of that sound, but with no wind and at 3 a.m. in the morning. So it was dark and they couldn't really see and they were hearing all of this really horrible sounds. So they decided to stay put, and instead of getting back into the river and navigating through these obstructions, these trees falling into the river, that they would just kind of like, stay awake and stay put and make sure everybody was okay. So then the sun came up and they went to shore and they examined what happened, what were the effects of the shocks that they were hearing all through the night. And he said that the earth from about 20 feet from the water's edge opened up and there was like this deep crack. And he's like, luckily nobody was injured, but they wanted to move away from that area, from the landing where that they were. And once they got going, all of a sudden a fifth shaking occurred that was more severe than the first couple. And Pierce described them as being extremely lucky. His words were, "It was indeed most providential," because if they had stayed on the bank where they were looking around at all the things a few moments ago, they would have been killed because that whole plot came loose and plunged into the water, including trees from the forest right past. And he said it would have smashed them to bits. So with the daylight, they could see the destruction of the first few shocks in the area. And he said it looked like a war zone on the opposite shore. The riverbanks had fallen into the river on the other side. And Pierce says that where the veins of the earthquake ran, there was the volcanic discharge of combustible matter to great heights, an incessant rumbling that was heard below, and the bed of the river was excessively agitated while the water assumed a turbid and boiling appearance. Near our boat, a spout of confined air breaking its way through the water burst forth, and from a loud report discharged mud, sticks, etc. from the river's bed at least 30 feet above the surface. So this is on the Mississippi River, and if you've ever looked at the Mississippi River, it's not a small river. It is extremely wide, and all of this is happening around their flat bottom boats. And so these spoutings of things being dredged up and shot into the air from the river were very frequent, and in many places seemed to rise all the way up into the heavens. Large trees, which had lain for ages at the bottom of the river, were shot up like thousands of times from the river's bottom, with some of them with their roots coming up first, and then the tops of the trees coming up completely out of the water and hurled into the air. And y'all, this sounds like the
What?
craziest
They were
of
coming from the bottom of the water
Yeah.
coming up because the earthquake was still going on.
Yes. And so this sounds like the craziest of like Disney rides. Like you would expect like this coming up, like things shot in an air coming up.
And then an elephant.
And then an elephant, right? But this would be introducing the new Madrid earthquake of 1811 and 1812. So this was what was happening on the river during the time of that earthquake. The new Madrid earthquakes of 1811 and 1812 were a series of powerful seismic events that struck the central U.S., causing widespread destruction and loss of life. And this is William Pierce's personal accounting of it in a book that's called something like Earthquakes Happening in the Central U.S. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't remember what exactly it was called. So many of the trees, like once they came up from the bottom, and of course they're falling into the river itself, they started just floating down the river, which made like traveling in boats extremely dangerous. Pierce was basically thinking they're all going to die at this point. And a lot of the people that he was with, he's like, we just stood there in silence because they were in complete shock of like all of this explosion and chaos going on around them while they were witnessing a scene that he said defied description and the imagination. He's like, I can't even explain to you or describe it to you in a way that would really make you comprehend just how like extremely fucked up this was. That was his words exactly. So the earth, the river, and everything was torn with like this furious convulsion, like huge tracts of land. Anyway, huge trenches in the earth and would just like open up, and then they would just as quickly close up really quick, like this great mall. So it's like, it was very active. It's like, it wasn't like a once and done. It was like things were opening up and then they were closing and then they were disappearing and then they were falling and then they were exploding all around. And it was basically like hell came to earth. He wrote, nature itself seemed tottering on the verge of dissolution. He also wrote that if it wasn't for them being manly men like they were, they would be dead. But I just figured they got lucky.
I was going to say, I don't think it had anything to do with that.
Exactly. So throughout the day, there was like this continuation of shocks with very little breaks in between. And they were often like accompanied by many explosions and sounded like rolling thunder. So, everything was shaking and boiling, and there was just this constant sound of things breaking and thunder and explosions. The riverbed was consistently disturbed and the water boiled in many places, and it would just like vomit up all of this stuff from the bottom of the river. Pierce thought like the greatest danger to them was their boats getting caught up in one of these boiling water things. And they had a few close calls of instances that would, he said, like have sucked their craft underneath the waters. The noise was absolutely nonstop. Trees were constantly shaking and falling off the banks into the river. Several small islands were completely like disappeared and wiped out. And they were trying to find at this point a place to land and get away from everything.
Like how much time has passed?
So a day.
A
So at this
day?
point, like a day. Yeah. So I think they were just navigating the river, trying to make sure that they didn't go over like one of these eruptions boiling up from the bottom, and trying to find a stable place to land. And he said finally he found, he said these small islands were being wiped out, and they finally found like this bigger island that had like some problems going on. Like it was affected by the earthquake, but it was still there. So they fastened their boats to these willows, and they actually stayed there for like 2 or 3 days at this point.
Wow.
The island had like gaps and he said large amounts of like burnt or burning wood. And he said there were like chunks of coal that had been scattered around the island that were like 15 to 20 pounds big. They saw on the beach when they were looking from the island that there were also like these large circular holes in the sand that formed much like funnels or like mini volcanoes. And he talked about, these large fissures or large holes in the ground that opened up even on the island. But apparently the island was big enough that they felt somewhat safe staying there because they stayed there for 2 or 3 days while all of this continued. It didn't just it wasn't like a one and done. It continued for several days. So on Thursday the 19th, they've been there since Monday. All of this, had happened since Monday. They left the island and they floated down the river. Pierce said that everything was like a scene of ruin and devastation, where the Mississippi River used to be like calm and placid, and it's fucking huge, y'all. Take a look at the Mississippi River to see how big it is. He said there were subterranean forests now underneath the river, and that the trees would top of the trees would break the surface, causing like ripples and white water in the river itself. He said they passed thousands of acres of land that had fallen into the river. He said, and where this happened, there would be like this one single tree standing in about 10 feet of water, looking like it has like been there its whole life. Like he said, there would be like this huge oak that would be like 3 feet in diameter. It would just be in the middle of the river standing up, like that's where it was supposed to be, and that's where it's grown its whole life. It's like it was a very surreal experience. After this, there were more aftershocks, and he saw the ground on the land like undulate like a wave without breaking on the surface. He says there was trash all in the river, and he spoke of how many people probably wrecked or were buried under the ruins of the banks that fell into the river at this time. And he knew of at the time that 4 boats I don't know if theirs or just boats that he knew of, were lost. Again, at that time, he really couldn't say where the greatest of injury happened because he was there on the river, so he doesn't know really much of what happened other places outside of where he was. I tried to pin down where exactly when this happened he was situated on the Mississippi. He said something about like a little bayou river. He was like they were just north of the little bayou river, like 30 miles north or south of the little bayou. I couldn't find this. Of course, I didn't spend that much time. I'm wanting to think they were within 100 miles of the New Madrid, Missouri, the town of New Madrid, Missouri, on the Mississippi. So that is his account of what happened to them on the rivers. The New Madrid earthquake, or earthquakes, I should say, were the largest in U.S. history, with over 2,000 quakes in the central Midwest between December 16th, 1811 to March 1812.
Oh, shit.
So this was an extremely long seismic event. 3 of the earthquakes, like the main earthquakes that happened, are on the list of America's top earthquakes. The first one, the December 16th, which Pierce went through on the river, had a magnitude of 8.1 on the Richter scale.
Jeez.
The second, on January 23rd of 1812, was 7.8. And then on February 7th, my birthday, February 7th, the day after my birthday, was the largest one, and it was an 8.8.
Jeez.
All of this happened months and months. They had like aftershocks, and then they had like these really bad earthquakes in between for these 3 or 4 months. It said that they had between 6,000 to 10,000 aftershocks in the New Madrid area near the Ohio and Mississippi River Junction. The earthquakes were also actually felt as far as New York City, Boston, Montreal, Washington, D.C., even in the White House. President James Madison and his wife Dolly recalled feeling the shocks from the earthquakes, and it made the church bells ring in Boston. So that is like how far these
8.9 is like massive.
It's massive. So no other earthquakes have lasted so long or produced as much evidence of damage as the New Madrid earthquakes. On February 7th, the earthquake, a boatman reported that the Mississippi actually ran backwards for several hours from that last really huge earthquake.
Holy cow.
The force of the land, it upheaved 15 miles south. I mean, that was probably like that big upheaval is probably what caused the Mississippi to run backwards. But 15 miles south of New Madrid, it created a whole new lake called Reelfoot Lake, which is still there today. And if you look at the Mississippi River around the New Madrid Fault area, New Madrid, Missouri, it looks like squiggle marks. Like it totally rearranged that whole area topographically. All right.
So I guess they had to guess about the Richter scale because it wouldn't have been around then.
They wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't have known. At that
I guess
point. But I think it's kind of like
historians had to decide.
Like tornadoes, whereas like how much damage is how like your F3 or F4 tornadoes. So that's pretty much.
I just don't think like a Richter scale measurement.
They didn't have they didn't have the little needle with the paper kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that was later, like the invention of the actual scale,
which I think this earthquake helped put into place. The study of. So the force. Okay, we already talked about Reelfoot. It also drowned the inhabitants of a nearby indigenous village. So they really don't know like the extent of like death that happened because it was in a somewhat rural place and there was personal stories that happened, but there was no census. So we don't know how many people were like there and how many people were displaced and then how many people just disappeared.
I mean, the
died.
westward movement wasn't even that big then. Like there weren't that many people living west of the Mississippi,
correct?
Right? Except for Native Americans, because that was in the mid 18th.
Right. So during this, and I'm thinking this may correlate with the February, like the really large earthquake. It created 2 temporary waterfalls in the Mississippi River. People discovered that most of the crevices that opened up during the earthquake ran from north to south. So they began to like chop down trees and lay them down east to west so that they could use them as bridges across these crevices. Like we said, there were missing people all over the place who basically just got swallowed up by the earth and nobody like ever knew that they were missing or that they were swallowed up. Some of the earthquake's fissures or trenches that it created were as long as 5 miles.
Wow.
So the circular sand mounds that Pierce talked about on his little island or seeing on the banks are actually called sand boils. And some of them were so large that they resembled small volcanoes, which is where he was talking about things flying up into the air, right? So the world's largest sand boil was created by the New Madrid earthquake. It was 1.4 miles long.
Holy shit.
And 136 acres in extent. And it's located in the Boot Hill of Missouri, about 8 miles west of Haiti, Missouri. And it's called by the locals the Beach. The coal that Pierce was talking about, that he was seeing on the island that was like 15, 20 pounds, is actually called seismic tar balls. So it wasn't coal, but it was actually tar balls. And they're usually golf ball sized tar balls that are found in sand boils or fissures. And they're made of petroleum tar, right? But it has been solidified or like petrified into like these little hard nodules. So the coal that he kept seeing and things burning was because of these tar balls. Other weird things that happened during this time, people saw what's called earthquake lights. And these are called seismoluminescence. And it is when flashes of light appear from the ground, and it's most likely caused by the compression of quartz crystals under the earth being like mashed together, producing like these lights. Another weird thing that happened is that like the water that is ejected from like all of these like sand boils and things from the earth was reported to be like lukewarm. And they speculated that the lukewarm water was due to either being heated from the shaking or the quartz lights heated it somehow. And then there was the earthquake smog. So skies turned so dark during the earthquake that you would light a lamp and it wouldn't help you see. It was like basically you couldn't see like right in front of your face The air smelled really bad. There was like this phosphorus smell, like, sulfur and stuff smelling. And it was very hard to breathe because of all the things that was like pushed into the atmosphere. And it was also speculated that the small was from all the dust and all the crap that was, from the eruptions of the sand boils and the warm water going into colder air. Because remember, this was still like December through February, or actually December through March when all of this happened. They said that the atmosphere just looked really strange, that there were like yellow and red clouds, and people reported that the sky was lit up with like this strange glow, which could happen also from like the earthquake lights and stuff. And then loud thunder. So distant thunder and loud explosions accompanied the earthquakes. And every earthquake, people have noticed before like really big earthquakes, the animals' behavior started to change beforehand. They said that animals displayed like this nervousness and agitation right before the earthquake. And domestic animals became like crazy wild, while wild animals became more docile. So it's like all your pets ran away, but then you would have like a flock of ducks or geese come and like be your best friends because they were scared. And it shook like all the snakes like emerged from hibernation.
I
as
was just
well.
thinking before you even said snakes, how many people thought it was the
end of the world.
second coming.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, for
You
sure.
have that? I was like, are you getting into that?
oh,
Because
yeah.
I bet
We
people are
will-
about to prophesy.
shit.
We will get into that. Actually, we're going to get into that in the after talk.
like
'cause I gotta-
Heaven's Gate stuff, but like there's visual proof here based
shit,
on,
yeah.
oh my God, this is it. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. And there
It's
is
time to go.
there is like some indigenous people that had like prophesized beforehand this, and we'll get into those stories
That's cool.
in the after talk. So y'all, after talk, $3 a month. Become a patron. Hear all the cool stories that happen after the tales are told.
I like that. After the tales are told.
After the tales are told.
And the drinks are
And
drank.
the drinks are drunk.
Drinks are dranked.
Right?
Ooh, this one's getting on my head.
I know, me too. I'm slowing
Like
down.
Marleah's just staring.
I know. I'm a little comatose over here.
I
I'm
feel
sorry.
like she's just like, huh?
No, I'm getting it. I'm digging it. This is fascinating because
I
I've never
know.
heard of any of this. I had
Me
no
either.
idea.
Really? I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know
No,
about the
I've
new
never
Madrid
heard of
fault.
this.
No.
I've never heard of
Oh
any
my
of this.
God.
No, this
I'm
is
so
all
happy.
brand new to me.
No,
I
I
thought
haven't
everybody knew
either.
about this. Okay.
No.
Well, let's talk about the fault itself. The New Madrid Fault extends approximately 120 miles southward from the area of Charleston, Missouri, and Cairo, Illinois, through New Madrid, which is in Missouri, and Caruthersville.
Carruthers, maybe?
Caruthersville. It follows along Interstate 55 to Blytheville, and then Marktree, Arkansas. It crossed 5 state lines and cut across the Mississippi River in 3 places and the Ohio River in 2 places.
And that dude just happened to be
And
in one of those places.
He just happened to be in one of those places right on the Mississippi. So the New Madrid zone is poorly understood and studied because it really possesses some unique challenges. You can see the fault lines, like in California, you know where the fault line is. However, in the central U.S., the fault features are not really easy to see on the surface because they are covered by like 100 to 200 feet of soil. So the fault lines itself is like under all of this sand and clay, dirt. The New Madrid is located near the center of the North American plate, which is highly unusual. So it's an interplate quake is what actually happened. So it's not where 2 plates are rubbing against each other, producing the earthquakes. Is like in the middle of the plate itself. Because of the shaking and the damaged areas, or because of this, the shake and the damage of the areas were up to 20 times larger than similar West Coast quakes. So if you don't have a fault line where it relieves that pressure and that energy, the shaking is going to be felt wider and for longer than if like it has that area to release all of that energy
makes
and
sense, though.
pressure.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it takes more for it to actually break. But when there's a fault line, it gives.
Right. So in the area of the strongest shaking was approximately 10 times that of the great 1906 San Francisco earthquake.
Oh my God, 10 times?
10
Yeah.
times what?
10
More.
times more. Like the shaking
yeah.
was more
I wondered
devastating.
because that's what I was trying to compare it to because that's similar time. Well, I know it's 100 years, but still.
Right. Well, it says the two of the most lethal earthquakes in recorded history were intraplate earthquakes, both in China in 1556 and the province of Shaanxi. And these were highly populated areas. So it buried at least 830,000 people
Oh, my
at that
goodness.
time. And then there was another magnitude 7.7 earthquake that was also an intraplate earthquake in 1976 in the Chinese city of Tangshan, where it estimated the death toll was as high as 650,000 people.
Jeez. Damn.
Yeah, so those happened in like high. So if
If
this
there were more people,
more
in
people
that part,
in that
yeah.
area, like our death toll
God.
would have been extremely high.
But it was very sparse populated then.
Right. So the timing of this quake, you can't really predict when earthquakes are going to happen, but scientists estimate that the average interval between the magnitude 7 quakes or greater is approximately about 500 years. And the reason they know this is because they've looked back at recorded history and they found like around 900 AD, there was evidence of shaking. And again, in 1450 AD, another 500 or so years later, that there was like another huge earthquake in this mid-U.S. area. Two of the strongest of the most recent quakes since then have been like magnitude 6 that happened January 4th, 1843, centered near March Tree, Arkansas. And then there was another magnitude 6.6 on Halloween of 1895, centered near Charleston, Missouri. All of this to say that the New Madrid fault line is no joke.
Mhm.
And luckily, we still have like maybe another 400 or
That's what I
so
was thinking. I was
years
like,
before like a
19,
big thing. But the thing about it
2021,
is,
22, 23. Yeah.
yeah, the thing about it is that, there's still tremors in the area. And I remember like hearing of tremors every once in a while in that area, but nothing as big as that. But that area has like Memphis, like, St. Louis, all of the things that are near or around that area. There's so many people living now that if we were to have another huge, like 7 to 8 point earthquake, that it would devastate people.
Mm.
So that said, yeah.
Yikes.
Then this is something I always think about too when we go like cave, like we do the little cave tours underground, like in Tennessee,
Mhm.
thinking that there definitely could be an earthquake that happens and things fall and you'd be trapped. That's like my
Wow,
personal.
that got dark real fast.
Yeah, that's my personal like fear when I go on those things. It's like, see, Rock City.
Mhm.
But anyway, yes. So that is the personal account of the New Madrid Falls by William Lee Pierce. And I have 2 more accounts for the after talk
Ooh.
that has to deal with the prophecies and the first riverboat ever, steamboat, to go down the Mississippi, kind of like the Titanic.
Oh, God.
And happened to be during this time of
Jesus.
the earthquake.
Shit.
So again,
Stay tuned.
stay tuned. After talk,
Yeah.
$3.
That was great.
Hear
That
all-
was really good.
hear all the great things. So thank y'all so much for listening. We appreciate you so much. And laissez le
Le
bon
bon temps
temps
rouler.
rouler.
Oh my God.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.